Hey everyone, Duke Nougat 3D here with some more hot garbage from my collection. And today I have the British Service Respirator No.10, otherwise known as the ever so famous S-10 gas mask, or S-10 protective mask service respirator, whatever you want to call it. It's the S-10. The mask was designed by Porton Down in the early to mid 1980s and adopted for service with the British military around 1985, effectively replacing the earlier S6 protective mask. It was a very modern mask for its time and had a lot of key features that are still present in modern gas mask design today. It is overall a very well designed, excuse me, I have poor grammar, very well designed protective mask is what I'm trying to get at here, with very little to improve. It saw service, again, from 1985 up until the earlier 2000s, when the Scott GSR, or General Service Respirator, began to replace it effectively as well. It did have a numerous amount of upgrades and variants throughout its lifespan for various roles, functions, and purposes, and it overall remained the same. There really were no true other variants which deviated from its initial design. Just slight little tweaks here and there to fit various roles. But anyhow, more onto the S-10. It also saw service or saw testing during the XM40 trials as the US-10 masks, which basically the only modification was that it used an M6A2 style hood, flat lenses, a C2 canister, and US drinking hookups. The S-10 was primarily produced by Avon Rubber. I do not know if any other S-10, there are any other companies producing the S-10, but as far as I know, Avon is probably the only company producing the S-10, or the company that did produce the S-10. The S-10 was also issued to law enforcement as the N-10, I believe it was known as, Special Forces as the SF-10, both of which did not have the curved lenses that the military S-10 does. They both have the N-10. Actually, pretty much all other variants of the S-10 have flat lenses. Correct me if I'm wrong here. But the N-10 is identified by its gray parts. I'm not sure why it needed gray plastic hardware, but whatever. The AR-10, which I believe is also law enforcement. Actually, no, it could be civilian as well. Basically an N-10, but again, also flat lenses, lacking drinking system. It does have, the AR-10 does have black plastic parts. I'm probably botching this completely, so kind of take my knowledge on S-10 variants with a grain of salt here. The SF-10 also lacks a drinking tube, has flat lenses, and has black plastic parts as well. I believe one of the variants does have a drinking tube. Maybe, well, not a drinking tube, but I don't know. I really don't know my S-10 variants, so please forgive me. I'm just trying to give as much information as I can muster here. But I believe the U.S. Did purchase a few S-10s for law enforcement use, and during the Gulf War, there was rumor that Marines would sometimes pick up S-10s if they were to quote-unquote lose their M17A2 masks. Although this may or may not be actually true, but it is known that the Marines did pick up a British Mark III DPM NBC smocks to use other than the standard CPOGs, or I don't think they had the JS list at the time. So yeah, they basically were picking up Mark III smocks to use instead of CPOGs. Anyhow, before I get into a lot of history that I don't know anything about, let's get onto the kit itself here. The carrier is probably one of the more well-known accessories for this mask. It is a very sturdy, heavy Cordura nylon material. It opens with a central snap and two patches of Velcro with this pull loop here on the top flap. Mine has user markings written on it, but I cannot quite make it out. I think that says Stanson. Yeah, another Stanson marking on the user ID plate on the back. You have a loop here, which I'm not entirely sure what it is for. It could be for the leg retainer string, and yes, it is a string and not a strap. That is the one aspect I do not like about British gas mask carriers, is that they do not have a dedicated leg or waist strap, but they have just a little piece of string to retain it. And unlike previous British gas mask carriers where there's usually a metal disc to wrap the string around, the S-10 carrier just has a little bit of loop, little loop right there, so kind of a downgrade. The mask uses a very, very thin, like ridiculous. I would see this better as the shoulder. I mean the waist and or leg strap rather than the shoulder strap itself. I don't think this is meant to be as a shoulder strap, but excuse me, bumping the camera here because this big old boxy carrier is taking up so much goddamn room here. But yeah, it just uses a quick release buckle and a very cheap, well not cheap, but you know, very minimalist strap for carrying. And then this thing right here, which opens with two pull-to-dot snaps, is a adapter to attach the carrier to a PLCE belt. As you can see, the two PLCE tongues right there. And that's pretty much what there is to that. On the outside, you have this large pocket for a bottle of Fuller's Earth Decon powder. Moving on to the inside, you have two elasticated straps on the top here to retain the Survive to Fight manual, as well as a set of NBC gloves and an L1A1 NBC facelet, which is sort of a very odd half mask. I don't know why it was issued. You have two pouches down here for spare filters. Only one spare filter is carried at a time to accommodate the filter already on the facepiece. You have a pocket right here, which is used to contain the chemical detector paper, the atropine auto injectors, I forgot the designation, another decontaminating kit of some sort, all that good shit. That's pretty much it for the carrier. Nice, rugged, roomy carrier, but I personally don't like it as a shoulder bag, as it takes up a hell of a lot of room, and it's using the strap as a shoulder strap is not the most comfortable affair, so I'd opt for something else. Next up is the filter, and I'm surprised this video is taking this long because I don't have that many accessories for this, but the filter here is a PS10 filter. I believe there was another filter used with this mask, but I have the PS10. This filter was made, I believe, if the camera's picking that up, it says made in the UK, 13/12/05, and I believe British dates are backwards, so that could be November 13th, 2005, or May, I believe, May 12th, 2013. I don't know. If someone can correct me, please let me know. I'm probably getting this entirely wrong, but filter's obviously expired. Nothing really to it. Standard 40mm Stanag NBC filter. This canteen here is a US canteen. I do not have the British Type 58 water bottle with the S-10 canteen adapter because, let's face it here, the US canteens are sexier, they're better design. They're not that weird egg shape, so eat my dick. Basically, you can use this M50 canteen adapter is compatible with an S-10. It's a bit of a weird design, but it is totally compatible with the S-10's drinking system. But I'm not going to demonstrate that right now. But just keep that in mind when you're buying an S-10 and you don't want to use ugly British Type 58 canteens. Now let's move on to the mask itself. As I've mentioned, the mask is made entirely out of butyl rubber, with the only exception of difference in materials being the plastic hardware, which I believe is polycarbonate. It's probably not polycarbonate. It's a very brittle plastic, and it makes the mask feel a lot flimsier than it kind of is. The lenses are not ballistic. This can, I'm sure this has been discussed to death, but those lenses will shatter if anything strikes them. So keep that in mind. They do sell replacement lenses, and their listings do pop up from time to time on eBay UK, selling every single replacement part for the S-10, which is another reason why I like this mask so much. It's one of those masks where you can replace nearly every part on the mask. The only parts I have not been able to figure out how to undo are the inlet valves, or the side voice emitter and inlet valve, and the harness buckles, which, as you can see, are heat melted into place, but I've been told that there is a way to possibly replace these, but none that I'm capable of. So, as you can see, two very large round eye lenses, which are recessed in and slightly concave. They're both concave and convex. It's very weird, and Honestly, I'd go ahead if you're using this. I'd go ahead and pick up some replacement flat lenses, which are probably airsoft rated. Not to say to use this mask for airsoft, but just to get some better lenses to use with this mask. And I'm not going to go detailing how to replace them either, because it's a very. There are other videos on YouTube for that. The drinking tube is very nice, very long. The FM12's drinking tube is longer, but still, it's a very nice drinking tube in terms of length. The drinking tube is kind of where I have complaints, not because it's bad quality, but because the mechanism is a bit weird. You see, the inner drinking straw, it is pressure fitted onto this the other end of this lever here, which turning the lever will move the drinking tube towards your mouth. Basically, it does not acquire a perfect seal, and so when you suck in through the inner straw, air will leak around where it is pressure fitted onto this lever because it's plastic against plastic and not rubber against plastic, which is kind of weird. But anyhow, yeah, when you drink through this thing, it is a very choppy water flow. You get very little water for what you possibly could, and it's just all Avon masks do this. It is not just a flaw with the S-10. A lot of Avon masks have this issue with their drinking systems because they use that lever design. And also, when drinking, you have to turn the lever as far as it will go because there's a little slot on the lever which allows the water to be released into the drinking straw. The mask is 40 millimeter. You cannot replace the filter on either side. They had a technician to swap out the parts for that, or they just produced different handed masks. The FM12 does have a removable side voice emitter, which uncovers a second 40 millimeter thread, which I would totally recommend getting an FM12 over an S10 just due to the fact where you have that capability, and also due to the fact the drinking tube is longer and you have a better harness. We'll get to the harness in a moment. You have a hood stop going all around the periphery of the face seal, or not the face seal, the face piece, and that is compatible with most chemical hoods. The quick doffs don't necessarily like to work on these masks because the hood stop comes very close to the edge of the mask, and so the bottom of the hood will be slipping off that little area unless you have it over the front edge of the seal, in which case it's totally fine, but you run the risk of it slipping over your eyes, but whatever. Harness is rubber. It is actually very nice in terms of comfort, but quality not so much. It is made of a very thin, gummy type rubber. It's very stretchy, but it's very prone to tearing, and if you leave the buckles closed on it for a long period of time, it will make marks in the rubber. So not a very good harness. You can actually replace the harness though. You can actually put US harnesses on these, so like get an upgraded M40 skull cap harness and you can actually put that on an S10. I've done it before. Many people have done it before, and it's a much better option than the rubber one. But the rubber ones are good because it allows you to decontaminate the mask faster. And as you can see, it has a nice little indicator error telling you which edge is the top in case you're retarded. The only markings on the face piece are Avon 1987. So my mask is fairly early production because the Avon S10s were produced starting in 1985. And then you have the size stamp of size 2, which is a large. I believe the British sizing system is backwards. So 1 would be extra large, 2 would be... Actually, no, I think 1 is like large, 2 is medium, 3 is small, and then 4 is extra small. Correct me if I'm wrong. So now let's move on to the inside of the mask, and I'll show off some details of that, and then we'll wrap up the video. I'll try to flip the harness around here. It's kind of complicated with a rubber harness, but not as complicated as, say, doing a PMK, which I have to do a review of my PMK sometime soon here, so be on the lookout for that too, I guess. So, the interior of the mask. This is an extremely comfy mask. This is like the second comfiest mask in my collection, coming close to my M14A1 gas mask, as I've mentioned before. You have little notches in the lens rings for optical inserts. The oronasal cup does not have any valves in it, so the air comes in through these little holes on this, I guess, ledge right here, and then the air enters the nose cup through a hole on the top here. I still have no clue how that doesn't go back out and fog the lenses, but it works. You can see the outlet valve throughout the back there, which also functions as the main voice emitter, although it is not as clear as a dedicated voice emitter, but whatever, works well enough. Then you can see the very long drinking straw, which again is another complaint about that is it's very long and it will be resting well against your cheek, and in order for me to turn it into my mouth, I have to smile like very wide, make a very wide grin so it can slip past and go into my mouth, or else it'll just get caught there and not turn at all. There is a number 2 etched into this top buckle. I assume that has to do with the size, but I'm not entirely sure. I will demonstrate the lever for you. And that's the lever moving. And the face seal is very cushy and inturned, so very comfortable mask. Although people say that the FM12 is even more comfortable, but I don't have an FM12. I'd like an FM12, but I don't want to spend the money on one, is the problem here. So just give me a minute, I'll put it back on the head and we'll finish things up here. There we go, good enough. So there we have the infamous British S-10 gas mask. Very, very nice mask. I would totally recommend this, if not an FM12. They can be had around, typically on US eBay, they're around $60 to $100, which is way more than it's worth. I picked up mine off of British Collector for about 40 bucks total, including shipping. So if you want an S-10, get in touch with a British friend or a British collector. They'll probably get it to you for much cheaper than what is sold typically on US eBay. So that being said, I'm Duke Nougat 3D. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns relating to this mask, feel free to drop them in the comments. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all later.